Jainism says very clearly that only through ultimate freedom does wisdom have any meaning. Wisdom has no meaning on its own. If the state of utter freedom is not attained, and the state of utter freedom is the whole quest of Jainism, it is the whole quest of the tirthankaras, it is their path. Moving towards Kevalya, moving towards Keval Gyan, the ultimate, utter freedom of self. In a literal way, people have interpreted it as freedom from rebirth and so on. But that is not what it is. Essentially, in essence, even if you take away all these very literal connotations, rebirth and so on, the very idea of being utterly free is at the heart of the Tirthankara's message. Free from conditioning, free from society, free from the constraints of so-called knowledge, free from the boundaries of the mind, free from the boundaries of emotion, becoming infinite in consciousness. And when you're infinite in consciousness, you're automatically free. The pulsation of freedom is at the very heart of it. And that is what creates a truly alive energy within us. Otherwise, our energy is just going around in circles in this conditioned state of being that we find ourselves in. Unless we step out of that whole nonsense, our energy is stuck in our belief systems, in our ideologies. It does not move towards creativity. And to take our energies away from this circle of conditioned thought, conditioned action, limited impulse is really the way of Jainism. It is the way of the Tirthankaras. It is the very heart of it. And this is the great magnetism of the Tirthankaras. They are totally charismatic even without possessing anything because they live in complete freedom. And at the very heart of every human being is this craving for freedom. At the very heart of ourselves is this attraction towards utter freedom. That seems to bring bliss, that seems to bring peace. Deep within us, we have a sense that if we are utterly free, if we can fly into the sky of mystic freedom, we become utterly peaceful. You know, there's a book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and it's about mysticism in a way. It is a parable. And when the bird takes flight, the whole quest and the whole meaning is to fly in utter freedom. So the Tirthankara is like that bird with no cages around it, flying higher and higher, hearing the very heartbeat of the universe, being one with that heartbeat of the universe. That is the whole meaning. That is the whole going beyond ego. And this creates a certain state of relaxation, a certain state of restfulness. It creates a nuance of being. It creates a new dimension of being. And in that dimension, there is no question of feeling weak, feeling hopeless, feeling non-confident. The Tirthankars are the biggest example that there is nothing to feel worried about in life. They possess nothing materially, yet they possess everything that can possibly be possessed by a human being. They possess truth, they possess bliss, and most importantly, they possess freedom. That is something worthy of imbibing. Now, it's not necessary that we renounce the world like the Tirthankaras, but this whole spirit of freedom needs to be our very milieu, our internal milieu of consciousness, our internal creativity, where we are able to transcend thoughts of future, thoughts of past. We are able to remain non-occupied with what will come in the tomorrow, and through that attain to a quietness, a calmness, a silence of ourselves. then you'll find that life is not lived in vain. Life itself has a value. And to observe life is the best thing to do, to be a perfect witness to this magnificence that is existence, is the most cleansing, the most beautiful experience we can have. And if we absorb this message of the Tirthankaras, then we find that we are infinitely potent, we are infinitely powerful, because there is nothing to crave for anymore. You are in an automatic rhythm with all that exists. Now, some people find that renouncing the world is a very impractical philosophy. How do the rest of people emulate that? How do we follow that example? But that is not the point. You don't have to follow the example literally. You have to remember that this essence of freedom is important. So even whilst you're engaged in something, you may be in a job, you may be in a profession, you may be in a formal relationship of marriage and so on. That's okay, but the idea of inner freedom is key. It's like Khalil Gibran writing in The Prophet about how even married people can have spaces of freedom between them. So that is the meaning of communion in a relationship, where you are together, you're in a rhythm, you're in a harmony, but you're able to transcend the idea of conditioning each other with ideas of non-freedom. Then only do relationships become relaxed, joyful, blissful. Same goes for work. You're doing some creative task. It should liberate you. It should give you freedom. Bring that quality of freedom into what you're doing, and then that itself becomes a meditation. That itself leads you to an expansion. That itself leads you to a receptivity. That itself leads you to an inner feeling that you are a king of the inner world, a queen of the inner world. There is nothing that can possibly put you down. Don't behave like your work is a burden. Don't worry about it. So the Tirthankara gives up this idea of worry. The Tirthankara gives up the paradox of work versus rest, relationship versus non-relationship. Those things don't matter. Don't look at the opposites. In the midst of work, you can have freedom. In the midst of work, you can feel relaxed. That is the whole essence of the Jain quest. Carry on doing what you need to do, but in a way where you're internally free. And in a way, Jainism reflects Zen also, which came much later. You see, Jainism is perhaps the most ancient spiritual path, with ancient Tirthankaras, who are mentioned even in the oldest texts as being ancient. So, Jainism is in a way a parent to other paths. Zen, Taoism says a similar thing. Let your work become restful. Let your work become liberating. It's about liberation. It's about freedom. It's the quality of freedom that you bring to what you do. The very awareness, the very silent awareness of that freedom, that you don't have to be bound up by what you're doing, creates a release from karmic bonds, creates greater possibilities for yourself to expand like a dynamo of energy. You become indeed a dynamo of energy through that feeling, and then you are able to move towards a higher energy vibration, and that is the very secret of fulfilled living.